So there I finally was in Los Angeles, California. Santa Monica Beach to be exact. And it was really an amazing, thrilling time. The beach is wonderful, all the beaches along the coast there. Women are beautiful, fat cars. There just aren't any lemon bum beat up cars. All of them are big and beautiful, and all the women are gorgeous. And I guess all the guys got something going on. To be able to live there, you have to make a fairly good income, I think, to live there in a normal sense. Paying the rent, buying a house. But fortunate for me, at least at that time, you can also do it the way I was doing it, which was basically by living by your wits, I guess you call it, on the road, hand to mouth, day to day. Probably still people doing it. Homeless, street people. But so, one of the first things I can remember happening in California is I got a ticket for jaywalking. I think it was actually when I was walking out to the beach that first time through Inglewood. I noticed every time people would come to a corner, they'd stop and they'd wait for a light. And for the life of me, it just agitated me. It's like, well, I know that's the law. Most places have jaywalking laws, and you're supposed to wait for the light to be green in the direction you're walking so that you can cross within the crosswalk safely, observing the traffic laws and whatnot. And yet most places also don't care. They turn a blind eye to it if you just cut off or cross the street in the middle of the block, or whether the light's green or not, as long as there's no traffic. You know, the idea of jaywalking is to be successful at it. Don't jaywalk, get hit, and then try to blame the traffic, you know. But there was almost no traffic. It was early in the morning, I believe, and still, I said, everybody is still obeying this law perfectly. They'd all get to the corner, they'd stop, wait for the light. When the light changed, then they'd be able to safely cross. They crossed. And so I look around and I say, well, this is just silly. And there's no police, no police cars, nowhere in sight. And so I start to walk across the street right in the middle of the light without it being green for the right way, but there's no traffic. And sure enough, boo! As soon as I start to cross the street, all of a sudden here appears a police car, and they pull me over and start writing out a citation for jaywalking. And I said, you guys don't actually ticket for that, do you? And I said, sure enough, it's a law. And he wrote me a jaywalking ticket, and I swear he wasn't there a minute before. They must have cloaking devices, I don't know. Wait till I broke the law and then they decloaked. But they were real friendly, real nice, and they ended up pointing me downtown saying, well, if you're on the road, on the street, you can go downtown to this mission down there and get a meal and maybe get a night off the street, a shower, and clean clothes. And so that's what led me to exploring downtown Los Angeles. And sure enough, they've got a nice mission, or had at that time, 1981. I believe it may have been called the Gospel Mission or Mission of LA, something like that. But I believe it's church supported facility. They had a big dining room area where they'd feed people couple meals, 3 meals a day. I think the morning meal might have been just donuts and coffee, or oatmeal and coffee, something like that. And then lunch was a bowl of beans, piece of bread, and water, probably, maybe Kool-Aid. And then supper was similar. Kind of made do with what they had. But give you one night, I believe, out of the month, or one night a week. It wasn't real often you could stay overnight there, but when you did, they had relatively adequate dormitory type facility where there were bunk beds and probably about 20 or 30 of them in a room, and I don't know, 2 or 3 rooms like that, I think. But I visited there many a time. I would go off and hang around the beaches to see what was going on, to enjoy myself, to basically for free have the amusement of being near the ocean and doing that kind of thing. As though I were on vacation for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, 5 days out of the week. And then for a couple of days I'd go back downtown and feed up. It's like, you know, you got regular steady food down at the Mission, but that wasn't as interesting as the beach. So then I'd go back to the beach and not eat as much, kind of scrounge. But and I found out they do ticket for jaywalking, or at least at that time they ticketed pretty strictly. So cross only with the light and only at the corner through the crosswalk.